and engage. And as always, I want to start our day off by taking massive action. That action stands for accepting all possible losses before entering a trade, preparing you for any outcome, centering yourself, body, mind, and spirit, ensuring a balanced approach to trading, trusting your education, strategy, trade skills, and intuition. Imagine your trade successfully materializing, obeying your trading strategy, avoiding decisions based on greed or fear, and never looking back or stopping once your trade has commenced. All right. So, if everybody can hear me okay, drop me one in the chat and we will get things underway. All right, cool beans. So let's hop over to trading economics. We'll take a look at the first things up, and then we will go from there. All right. Ba, ba, ba. Cool. So, um, first thing up on trading economics is, here we go. U.S. inflation likely accelerated. Uh, excuse me, one second, everybody. All right. Inflation likely accelerated. We got annual inflation rate in the U.S. likely accelerated for the first time in 4 months, rising to 2.5 in May from 2.3 in April, amid early impacts of Donald Trump's new tariffs. On a monthly basis, CPI is expected to increase by 0.2%, matching April's gain. Meanwhile, annual core inflation, right? Core inflation removes all of your volatile items, um, food, gas, is projected to edge up to 2.9% from 2.8%. On a monthly, core CPI is anticipated to rise by 0.3%, marking its highest monthly increase in 4 months. So we're starting to see, and we'll watch for the numbers when they actually come out, but this is the estimate that inflation is starting to trickle into the market, all right? Starting to rise. So what that would mean is for us as investors, some of that safe haven activity could continue, right? So gold as a hedge on inflation would be a good play. Okay. Um, and we have, excuse me, Japan. Producer prices in Japan rose by 3.2% year on year in May, slowing from a marginally revised 4.1% in growth in April, and missed the market consensus of 3.5. This marked the 51st month of producer inflation, um, though it was the lowest point since September. All right, this is one of the data points that the Bank of Japan is looking at to gauge how they move with their continued um, tightening of monetary policy, right? And uh, Governor Ueda, what he stated was they want to make sure that things stay in alignment with their goals and their targets, right? Um, because they're walking a tightrope and they're anticipating some fallout from the tariff situation as well, right? So, with that being understood, um, and this target missed, that's a signal to the Bank of Japan, hey, we might need to slow down, right? We might need to continue this pause. So this um, adds to the case for the Bank of Japan to hold off on raising interest rates until the end of the year, right? So that's where we are there. Um, aluminum. Aluminum futures climbed past 25.20 per ton, hitting its highest levels in nearly a month as investors welcome the positive outcome of a two-day round of U.S.-China trade talks in London. Negotiations concluded with the framework agreement aimed to advance the new Geneva Consensus and reaffirm commitments made during a recent presidential phone conversation. As part of the deal, China is expected to loosen export controls on rare earth material and magnetic materials, while the U.S. is while the U.S. is considering softening restrictions on advanced technology exports in China. Right? You got to pay attention to some of these words because they could come back to bite us in the future, right? China is expected to loosen controls over rare earth and magnetic materials. U.S. is considering, right? They said they have an agreed upon framework, but they don't have details firm, right? They're considering it. They may or may not. Um, while both countries await final approval from their respective presidents, the agreement has raised hopes for potential de-escalation in the prolonged trade dispute between the world's two largest economies. The aluminum sector has been caught in geopolitical unrest over the past few months, most notably due to ongoing trade conflict between U.S. and China. All right. So that's aluminum. And we have European stocks. Both stocks, 50 stocks, 100 swung around flatline on Wednesday, following a choppy session the day before as investor sentiment remained fragile after U.S.-China trade agreement failed to deliver a meaningful boost in confidence. Right? Aluminum, it helps some because of how it impacts coming out of China. But overall, it failed to deliver a meaningful boost in confidence because there wasn't anything firm agreed on. After 2 days of talks, officials from both countries agreed on a framework for implementing the so-called Geneva Consensus, which last month led to tariff restrictions. However, the announcement lacked concrete details, and the framework still awaits approval from Donald Trump and Xi Jinping. Right. Meanwhile, EU officials signaled that trade negotiations with the U.S. could extend beyond July 9th deadline. Um, so that would impact the EU, right? Their extension was July 9th. Doesn't sound like they're going to have a deal done. Retail sector was by far the worst performer with shares of Indentex losing over 4% after the company reported a weaker than expected quarterly sales in order to slower start to the summer season compared to last year, citing ongoing economic headwinds. In contrast, autos and basic resource sectors led the gains. All right. So that's where we are there, out of the Eurozone. And then, yeah, that's where we are. Over to the calendar. Ba, 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 ba. Now the ton went down yesterday. Um, I was talking about, he talked about Los Angeles a lot yesterday. Um, Today, this is what we're looking at, right? CPI data. We talked about the expectations, right? Now today, 8:30, we'll get the real numbers. And we'll see where things fall. Okay. So that's the big news for today. You also got crude oil inventories as well. Okay. And then tomorrow we got that PPI number, which will add to the story from today. Okay. So that is where we are. Benny, good morning, bro.
Ryan, good morning. Good morning, everybody.
How's it going, man?
Man, I'm recovering, dude. Brutal dental appointment yesterday.
Oh man. Sorry to hear
Yeah,
that one, bro.
yeah, man. I'm glad it's over. But
Heck yeah.
anyway, they got me with the late appointment too. So
Oh, that's the
uh,
worst.
yeah, yeah. So but other than that, man, just let's see what happens with this CPI today, man. I mean, we got you got that brutal cocktail, man. You got slower growth. We already seen that come out earlier, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, you got your job numbers that came through that wasn't the best, and the best that we've seen. And then now let's see what happens with this CPI, right? So we see, you know, why the Fed is cautious and why they have their concerns, and why they haven't continued to cut rates, just holding steady. So let's see what happens, man. But the case continues to go in the Fed's favor with these numbers that we're seeing.
That it does, bro. That it does. Um, it's definitely going to be interesting to see how things go.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um,
Yep. Yep.
yeah.
But I am making uh, positive gains, right? Patience pays. You know, I mean, like a lot of the ETFs that I'm sitting in and back in the positive now, back in the blue. The good day yesterday for the S&P. So
Mm-hmm.
uh, we'll see. I hold that TLT in the portfolio just to hold it. So it's down, but you get a dividend on that every month. So um,
Yeah.
just holding on to that. That's always like with the protection, but the monthly dividend is coming through nice on that just for holding it. But other than that, man, just staying patient and slowly but surely, like everything is moving back into the positive. I did pick up some shares of ARK yesterday, the ARK ETF, Kathy Wood. So
Which one? Just the ARK?
yeah, just the
Okay.
ARK. I moved back into that small position just for over the long term, since everything is shifted back positive now. But like EEM, EFA, all of them are back up right now. Even the MCHI position that I have is back in a positive. SCHD, that's positive
Mm-hmm.
right now. So it's things are moving along pretty well. Just staying patient and being picky with the moves that I make. So
Being picky, man.
yeah, that's it. And just being super strategic, just letting it all play out. See what happens. But I'll be interested to see what happens with the CPI and how the market reacts.
Yes. Yes, definitely. Patience certainly does pay, bro.
Hmm.
Um, Removing all the noise and just staying focused on your plan. Um, I think the CPI number is definitely going to be interesting. And it's wild because, and we've been saying this all year, but there's so much happening at the same time, right? Um, so at the same time, we're waiting on this CPI data, which is likely going to show an increase in inflation due to the tariff impacts. You also have the negotiation between the US and China, which also has the market in a chokehold, right?
Yep.
Um, So it's it's an interesting cocktail, man, for sure. For sure.
Indeed.
Uh,
And I mean, and this is just to go back to what you were covering yesterday, just following the people that do it on a very, very high level, that's what's really led to me having more patience, like gaining a better understanding of exactly what they do and how they make their money and how they manage their portfolios.
say that one more time, bro.
I said just really what's helped me with my patience is just studying what the Ray Dalios are doing, what the Kathy Woods are doing, how they manage their portfolios has really helped me to have a lot more patience,
Yes, bro.
and understanding that it's really all about the long game.
It's about the long game, man. And that's so true. Like really, really digging into to really understand how the best in the industry view the market and the world. And then like one of the things that excites me every day is being able to like legit combine all of those all of those perspectives to have an even broader view and then be able to distill, okay, this is how we want to approach this based on a combination of how the best in the world look at it.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
So it's definitely been interesting.
Yeah, it's I mean it's made a world of difference, you know, for me and in my my trading and investing career.
Hmm. Facts. Facts. Um, cool. Do anything else, bro?
Nope, that's it.
Cool beans. Um, just the last note on the market. The futures, stock futures are trading sideways right now, um, because of the lack of critical detail, from that
Hmm.
U.S.-China negotiation, right? So just to add to that, right now the market is just trading sideways. Um, Market participants are on edge, hoping for progress that would lift the global growth, but brace for tariffs to remain if talks falter, right? So not really a ton of positive sentiment around those conversations. So that's where we are. Team, you guys got any questions or anything to add from a fundamental perspective?
No.
All right. Give me 1 second, everybody. And then I get us switched over. All right, let's head over to the charts. DXY still in this range, but as of right now, we're pushing down just a bit, right? Still in this range overall, and we're waiting to see. So that's the CPI data. Those talks, those talks out of China didn't move the dollar much, right? Um, We'll see if the CPI data moves the dollar in one direction or the other. All right. But we're still stuck here. Okay. So we'll just continue to monitor the dollar and what that looks like, but legit just straight across the screen. Okay. Straight across the screen. So not a ton doing there. Um, Come over to the dollar yen, right? And slowly trickle into the upside because we do have that yen weakness. All right, that we've been talking about. Um, Over the weekend, the United States did mention that they wanted the Bank of Japan to uh, continue raising the rates to slow the weakening of the yen. Um, and the Bank of Japan's response was simply, uh, we're going to focus on doing it the right way so that we don't have any missteps. So their focus is on ensuring that they can get to that 2% inflation target in a sustainable way. So they won't rush anything. So with the urging of the United States to for them to take action, they said we're gonna continue to follow our plan, basically. Um, and so with that, you're seeing the yen continue to weaken, which we expected across the board. Clean some of this up so we can see this here. Right now, we're moving back to the upside on the chart. Uh, there we go. So when we zoom out on this, boom, right? And this is our capital fib. We got a 382, and we've just been kind of moving back and forth here. Okay, trying to figure it out. Pushed up to that 118 level, came back down, and now we're stuck. Okay, so market is trying to figure things out. We've got daily resistance here. I'm trapping us in that little bit of range there. All right. And then as you zoom in on this, just running some of those smaller waves to the downside, you got a 618 retracement there, but we haven't been able to break out because the dollar's kind of stuck. We do have stochastic and then buys on there. So we come down to the 4, and I believe that's my capital fib there. Just want to make sure. Yep, okay. So it wouldn't move at that time. This is where we are on the 4. Okay. Um, we had that nice reversal. Price took out the A. So we'll flip those fibs and reverse them from the bottom up. And you see price came down and took out the A here with that spike. So we'll run that fib off the top like that. We'll take these out. And that's where we are, right? Back and forth here. We got a 618 retracement. Uh, 288. Yep. 618 retracement. So not a ton really like clearly happening here. Potential harmonic pattern forming, but price is trickling to the upside. That's essentially what we see here. Come down to the 1, kind of same story. Not a ton doing with the back and forth fibs in the market trying to figure things out. All right. So we work those through, and this is where we sit there on the 1, right? AB boundary, we got a 618 retracement. Expected matching extension is the top of this range here at 146, 101, right? Here's your C to D move, Deb. Your AB boundary Price came down into your zone. Price came down into your zone. And now we look for price to continue to our matching extension. Like that. All right. So trickling to the upside as expected. On the 1 hour, that's the clearest move that we have right now. Moving to that 146, 101 area. So that's the dollar yen. Ba, 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 ba. Oil moving long. Don't have an update on oil. Let's see. Crude is up approximately 1% as markets price in improved demand expectations tied to on the oil side, they see it as a successful conversation, and data showing rising energy consumption. Optimism in Asia's industrial output is also contributing to the bullish sentiment, right? Um, so oil moving to the upside, right? Which we've been discussing. Okay. We look at things here. Let's go back to the daily real quick, broader view. Overall, this is our capital fib here, right? 8-6 retracement. This should be a new AB boundary because we got to that D extension there, right? So we should have a larger fib that looks like this. Okay. So we're in this down retracement zone here. Okay. Down retracement zone, and we're moving to the upside. All right. We do have stochastic in the sell zone here, right? Just overbought. So I'm gonna pull this larger fib out right now, um, just so that we can focus on some of these smaller moves as prices in that down retracement zone. Okay. Um, which is here, right? And I ran this fib off the downside because I'm expecting price to continue moving to the upside at least for a little bit, right? So we had this double bottom here at 55.13, and then price moved to the upside, right? We got a nice pullback to this 382 area. Didn't quite get down to that 50, 61.8% retracement area, but we got that reversal and price is rising, right? So the 382, we're expecting that 69.19 matching D extension in the shorter term. Okay. Um, we come, so we do this. I'm going to mark out this 382 and 618 on this capital fib. Boom. Excuse me. All right, so those are our levels, right? 382, 61.8. So we're tracking this move to the upside to those levels, okay? So we come down to the 4. You're welcome. We'll come down to the 4 and we see a similar move from that smaller wave on the daily, except here on the 4, we got that nice push down to that 618 retracement zone, right? So again, Dev, here you go, right? You had your AB boundary and want to see price push down into your zone. And price came down and wicked it right there. So 618 retracement. And then we saw the move to the upside, matching the extension 67.19. Right? So AB boundary, price stayed within it, pulled down into your sweet spot. And now we're looking for that C to D move to continue to the upside to at least that area. Okay. Boom. So that's there. Right. So right now we have on the daily 69. So we'll map this out in this range. with that D extension being the top of the range there. Okay, come back to the 4 and we'll bring this down. D extension is the bottom of that range. So right now, this is the area that we're looking at, right? Got the daily D extension at the top, 4-hour D extension at the bottom, looking at price rising to that area. Okay. Down on the 1, similar story. Similar story. 618 retracement. Boom. A, B, A, B, C, D. Okay. So, excuse me. So price is rising as anticipated off of that 618 retracement. And when it gets to that D extension is close to that 4-hour D extension, right? So when we get into this area, we'll monitor things and look for a reset on all 3 levels for retracement. And then we'll look at it fundamentally to see if we get continuation to that 382. And then maybe, just maybe, as we move through the summer, maybe we get to 79, 75. All right. 71 area is the bottom of a support zone. Yes. Coming back here, right? At resistance there. We come back. Right in this area here, right? Where that red line is. Remember where that 382. All right, yeah, support there, resistance there. Absolutely. So it's definitely going to be a key zone to watch, right? That 382 off that daily fib. All right. And if you could just go back and look, right, price is in that area quite a bit. Okay. So we'll definitely watch that zone at 382, just above to 72.29 as an area of resistance. We would like to see a pullback, and we'll see if that's an overall change in direction or not. Joy, what's happening?
Can you zoom out and see? This looked like this is a pullback. Last time it was here looked like it was June 21. No, that's not a double bottom. I was trying to see if it was a double bottom or not.
Where?
Over to the left. Because it just basically looked like a pullback from this area. Yeah.
Oh, I got you. I got you. I got you. Let's see.
Yep.
I see what you're saying. These are those lows of 0. But I believe that fib got taken out, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
From a higher time frame perspective, this push down took that A out there on the weekly,
Okay.
on a monthly too. So we're looking at these fibs here coming off the top, right? Coming back from a monthly time frame perspective, we already got that 382 level here, right? And we're trying to see kind of what happens, right? If oil gets down to this $30 level again, I won't miss a buying opportunity, I'll tell you that. Uh, but yeah, so price stalling right now in this area. Decision had an indecision. So it'll be interesting to see from a monthly perspective if we close. Thank you for bringing me back here, Joy. Decision, indecision. Do we close the month of June with a strong bullish decision candle? Evening star pattern, or yeah, evening star pattern. Boom. Right? Do we then see price continue to rise? That'll be interesting to see here. So that'll be interesting if we get that type of action there. But overall, right, looking at oil moving to the upside, and we'll continue to track it. All right. Any other questions on oil? Thoughts? No? All right, cool. So that's oil. Natural gas is in an interesting space right now, right? We got some seasonality things taking effect. But at the same time, we have gas also being used to help provide energy and power for a lot of the data centers, the AI data centers that are needed, right? Tons and tons of energy is required. I don't know if we talked about this, but I know Benny and I were texting about it. But in order to supply the amount of energy that's needed for the amount that's needed for the AI data centers alone over the next 5 years is equivalent to 67 nuclear power plants. Right? It's equivalent to 67 nuclear power plants. And we're not able to build 67 nuclear power plants in 5 years.
Insane.
Right? So the energy has to come from somewhere. And where is it going to come? Right? Renewables, but natural gas is going to be is part of that equation that right now is providing some of that energy and will in the future as they still try to figure out the renewable energy situation and how the government wants to handle that, right? And so we could see natural gas come down a little bit, but overall, right, we've been talking about these higher levels on natural gas, and that's one of the fundamental pieces that I believe is going to drive natural gas to these higher levels of $5 and 6.5, almost $7 per cubic foot, right? So keep that in mind as we're going through this. All right. George said go back to the weekly. Okay, I'll go to the monthly just to take a look. But this is where we are from a monthly time frame perspective. Okay. Um, Came all the way down, right? Lowest points here. Okay, I can remove this. I'm gonna make this a monthly support level. Boom. But kind of just moving sideways right here. Okay, trying to figure things out. We broke out above this previous consolidation. Now we're trying to figure things out a little bit. Stochastic and sells on the monthly time frame. On the weekly, on the weekly, all right, boom, this is where we are. We broke above the cloud on that strong run to the upside. Now we're pulling back to retest the cloud. Okay. Cloud still bullish ahead. Okay. So do we get a push down? You can see a little bit of this formation that I think I'm identifying on a lower time frame, but we may have a bit of a crown action trying to develop here. Took out the low, came back, right? So do we get a deeper push here before we continue that trek to the upside? Okay, potentially. So something that looking at and seeing from a seasonal perspective as we go through these summer and early fall months, do we see a move down before we really set ourselves to make this run to the upside? Okay. So coming down to the daily, this is where we are. Okay. Was that what you're talking about, Joy? That break and retest of the cloud on the weekly?
Yeah, because the last time I was doing some reading, because and now that you brought that up, it was after the outlook, if it's hotter than normal, then we can expect for people to be running air conditions all summer long. And then that's where we'll get our rallies. But then if there's any interruptions or storms or outages because of overusage, is where we'll see our pullbacks.
Say that one more time.
If it's hotter than normal this summer and people are
Air
running
conditioning.
their air conditions longer than or higher than what they did last year,
Uh-huh.
we can expect to see bullish moves. But due
Okay.
to storms and possible power outage because of the overusage, we can see our pullbacks.
So those will be our fluctuations on the lower time, our waves on the lower time frame.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. That's some deep research. I love it.
And I didn't have the AI part because at this point, and I was looking at last year and seeing where we was at. I'm like, we didn't have this much strength last year. Where is this support coming from? Why is it so confused?
Yeah.
Because down south, what they start their summer months in what, May? So I was expecting for price to start kind of dropping below, but when it didn't break below the weekly cloud and it's fighting in that spot right there,
Yeah. Pull this
that
up.
had me puzzled. Yeah.
I dig that. I dig that for sure. I dig that for sure. But yeah, that's it, right? That AI piece, and the energy for those data centers is definitely going to be interesting. And there's a lot of talks from a governmental perspective, um, in some of these meetings that you can take a look at, and they're talking about some of these things and how how all of these bills are going to impact that positively or negatively. Um, from a weekly time frame, that's our fib coming off the top, right? This is our capital fib. This is our down retracement zone. Boom, right? Just with that 382 level, with that push up there, and now we're pulling back a little bit. Okay. So we could be range bound as we move through the summer with those back and forth with, like George said, hotter days versus the power outages. But what this could also set us up for, right? If we do get that move to the downside, if we get this crown pattern that plays out and we do get this pushback down to the downside, that could then also set us up for that run back up in the inverted crown pattern. Okay. So another piece that will add to our arsenal as we're tracking this down. All right. So now we come down to the daily and we look at this from a daily time frame perspective, right? And overall, our fibs are coming off the high. Boom. Look at that. Right? And this is what we've been playing for quite some time, right? We've been looking at this since it's down in this 118, 127 zone, right? And some folks have made some money off this run to the upside. I forget who, Joy and a couple other folks really identified this. But 80-20, shallow retracement, 118, 127 zone. We got that consolidation and it's been working its way to the upside for quite some time. Yes. Yes, I'm short on this too right now, Joy. So we pushed up here, got to that weekly 382. We got a daily 382 at 515, right? So we still got some movement to the upside to go. This is our weekly 618 area at $6.70. We got a daily 618 inside of that at 616. Okay. Um, so how do we move within this range here before we make that move to the upside? So that's what we're looking at. Overall, this is our larger move, our 80-20. We're looking to the upside. And so our question as we drill down is, do we get a low price to then get back long? Okay. So zoom in here. Okay. Broader move, we got the larger perspective nailed down, right? So now what's going to happen here in this range? Okay. Here's that potential crown pattern. see it a little bit better on the 4 as well. But boom, do we get that move down like that? Okay, potentially coming back down to I don't think we get down to that 115 level, but potentially right around this support level here. Okay. Boom. Right. So 222. Okay. So we'll watch that there. Um, from a harmonic perspective, that is that capital fib. That does put us down at that 159, 155 level. That'll be interesting if we get a double bottom on that. That'll take out that crown pattern potential. But if we get a double bottom on this, that move to the upside is going to be lights out. Okay. So we'll watch that harmonic fib later. Okay. But potential crown pattern. Boom. So we got this retracement here, 50%, double top, almost a triple top, and we're trying to press down. Okay. Cloud pressing sideways right now, and that's on the daily time frame. Okay. But we are below the cloud. So as we come down to the 4, we take a look. And it's back and forth, right? You see that crown pattern a little bit better here on the 4, right? Left tip, right tip here. But with the fibs coming to the downside, that push up took the A out. Okay, so reverse that. And that was an 80-20 as well, right? Shallow retracement, 118, 127 zone. Beautiful move to the upside. All right. So run the fib to the upside. Those get taken out. Come back down. Those get taken out as well, right? So you see just the back and forth that's happening from a fib perspective as you move through the chart here. So now this is where we sit, right? As prices moving to the downside, it's just moving across there. Okay, we got a 618 retracement. We'll see what happens if we push higher on this right side and come back to 424, or if we move back down, right? My bias is, as of right now, my bias is to the downside on this. Okay. I'm looking for this A to get taken out, and we'll see how things go, if they fall in my direction or not. Right. But that's where we are on the 4. So we come down, whoops, we come down to the 1.
I
And
got a
then,
question.
yes, ma'am.
Is there a nuclear EFT out there? Or is there, just like how it's like aluminum gold, is there a nuclear?
For
Um,
like nuclear energy.
yeah.
Um, let's
That's a
see.
great question. I'm not sure, like for like a ETF with the companies. Is that
Yeah.
not sure.
Let's see. Yes, there are several ETFs focused on specifically on nuclear energy. Um, these ETFs typically invest in companies involved in uranium mining, nuclear reactor construction, fuel production, and nuclear technology. Um, I'll send you this list, but the symbols are URNM, right? Sprott Uranium Mining, URA, Global X Uranium, NLR, Van Eck Uranium plus Nuclear Energy, and NUCL. I'll put these into the community. Um, but that's an iShares nuclear uranium ETF. I'll put this whole breakdown into the community for those. That's a great question, Joy. But yes, there are some. Yes, there are some. And huh, that might open another door for us to take a look at. But boom. So yes. Yes, 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 yes. So, while I'm posting this in the community, natural gas, natural gas, um, range bound right now. We had a beautiful 80-20 right here. Shallow retracement 118, 127 zone. We got that drop off. Tried to come back, and now we're stuck. So we'll wait to see where things go from here. Like I said, my bias is to the downside on this, and we'll see if things play out in my favor on that. Yeah, that's where we sit. Questions on natural gas? Boom. That's in the community. Um, And now, what I actually do, because it looks funny there, I'll put this into a document and add that document as a PDF so that it looks a lot cleaner than it does there. So give me a few on that. But no questions on natural gas. Cool deal. Um, let's slide over here. Some of these that we've been watching are still kind of just stalling, right? We've been looking at there's Aussie CAD looking for a move to the downside. It's stuck right now, right? We got our direction is down, right? They have another way to identify direction is from the higher time frame as you're doing your top-down analysis, right? Looking at it from a higher time frame, saying, okay, boom, what direction is price moving? Run your trend line. Price is moving down. So I'm going to map my fibs on the higher time frame to the downside, right? Just as I did there. We got our daily fib coming off of here. There's our capital fib. AB boundary, deep retracement. Okay, beautiful. We got a downtrend. And what you can then do is where you started your fibs on the daily, highlight that level, bring that down to your lower time frame. So we know we're moving down, right? That's our overall trend. On the daily time frame, we see we have a deep retracement at an 8-6 level. So we know we're looking for a continuation to the downside here at some point. So now we come down to the 4. Boom, we zoom back out and we can start running our fib from that area that we identified on the daily time frame where we started running our fibs, right? And so we'll run our fib from that high. Boom. And that gives us our fib on the 4. AB boundary, deep retracement, right? Okay, Joy. Noted. Noted. All right. So AB boundary, boom, got to push down. Got your pullback. So we got a deep retracement. So A, B, C, 8-6 retracement. So the matching extension on that 8-6 retracement, 118. Boom. So now we're looking for a price at some point to make its way down to this level, right? If it stays inside that AB boundary, we're looking for price to get down to 83,320. All right. And that's the C to D move in the waves that it goes, right? So in that, how do we take an entry off the 4-hour time frame? Right, Ryan, I want to use trend lines. I want to use the break of the trend line for my confirmation. All right, beautiful. There's our trend line running to the upside. Price came down. Boom. Right. Close of the candle. Your entry would have been right around here at that level. Boom. Right. You got a pullback. You're in some drawdown, and now you're probably somewhere around break even. And we'll just allow price to do whatever it's going to do and take its time, do whatever it's going to do as it makes those ABCD waves to the downside, to our target. Boom. right? So Aussie CAD just consolidating right now, right in that zone. Okay. So not a ton doing there. All right, we come down to the one, just zooming in on this last move to the downside here, right? After all of the back and forth, whoops, there we go. All right, all of the back and forth that's going on there. Zoom in just on this last leg, and we got that move down. We got a pullback. This is within that all that consolidation that's happened on a higher time frame. Okay. We're in the fib off that last high. Boom. Deep retracement. 786 level. Price is trying to turn over and break this cloud. All right. So we did break the cloud there. So if you use the cloud as confirmation, you got a cloud break. You got the Kumo twist there. TK crossover came back here. Your lagging span is below price. All right. So looking at price moving to the downside on the cloud on the 1 hour. All right, so you trade off the 1 hour. There's your ABCD wave right there. A, B, C, 786 retracement, looking at a matching extension of 127. Boom. All right, so that's where we're at on the Aussie CAD. It's bouncing back and forth, but overall, we're still looking to the downside there. Okay, questions on the Aussie CAD? Nope. Cool beans. Overall, guys, like from a higher time frame perspective, we are still chopping sideways. Um, in a lot of these setups, right? At Aussie Swiss, still moving sideways. Aussie Yen is starting to make its way back up, right? The yens are the ones that are kind of in motion a little bit. But we got this daily resistance at 95,472 that we're gonna have to fight with on this Aussie. Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. Repetition. Repetition is the mother of all skill. Benny says it all the time, right? So continue just going over it and going over it. And the more you train yourself to see it, right? Train that reticular activation system to see it as it's important to you, you'll start to identify it better and better and better as you see it more, as you do it more. So keep on, keep on. You're doing great. You're doing great. All right. So this Aussie yen. Moving back to the upside, we do have 618 retracement there. We started that move to the downside and we're coming back a bit. Stochastic getting back into that sell zone. Um, this is one that'll be interesting to see how it moves because we have a weaker Aussie dollar as well. Um, so I'm watching this one from two perspectives, right? To see which one kind of takes precedent here. If we move into a risk-off environment, you could see this one kind of carry where some of the other yen crosses, they may not drop as much. Um, so I'm curious to see how this Aussie yen plays out. If we stay below this 95,731 level, I'm looking forward to continue moving to the downside. Okay. Um, um, so that's where we are there. All right, so that's on the 4. Come down to the 1, and that's where we sit. We got a 382, didn't quite get to that 50% level, right? If we're able to break above this 95 level, our matching extension is there at 99, but we got some work to do on this Aussie yen in order to make that happen. Could have an inverted head and shoulders pattern here too. Just seeing that. Just seeing this head and shoulders pattern here. So we'll watch this and see how it moves. If we get that action there. All right. So we'll see if we're able to break that level. If we're able to break that neckline, right, we'll head to that $99 level. But that level is going to be key for us. Okay. Questions on the Aussie yen? Questions on anything that we covered this morning? Nope. Benny, any final thoughts before we wrap it up, bro?
Hey man, patience pays. Second half of the
Patience
year.
pays.
That's it. That continues to be the message for me, man.
Yes, sir. All right, good people. We will be back at it tomorrow morning at 6:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for this New York session with my awesome partner, Mr. Benny Allen. You all have a phenomenal Wednesday.